So I couldn't be happier to have today's guest, Jody Churich. We were talking a little bit a minute ago, and she has spent her entire career, including her college internship in the mountains, working at or interning with or in the marketing department or ops, all ski resorts all the time. So for the last 15 years, she has progressively taken on larger and more responsible roles, first at Powder Corp, which is a smaller sort of version of Vail, Altera. If anybody's familiar, it was just a couple of resorts, but they had one really great flagship resort, Park City in Utah. Jody was there, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. She'll share that with us. And then Powder Corp sold off some assets, the big one, Park City, to Vail Resorts. And Jody migrated over to Vail, and she has had a couple of GM at the resort locations, Breckenridge, Keystone. But more recently, she has taken on a very significant role and oversees, as the chief operating officer, the 6 large destination resorts in the Vail portfolio. That's Vail, Beaver Creek, Keystone, Breckenridge, Park City in Utah, and Whistler Blackcomb in Vancouver. So, Jody, you're going to teach us a lot about how to operate as a snow farmer, because that's essentially what you all do. I couldn't be happier. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Carl. So happy to be on the pod and just to get to chat with you. We have crossed paths over the years, and yeah, I guess my new title is Snow Farmer. I think I've had that title for a long time, but yeah, it's exciting to chat and talk a little bit about the snow, which if I look out my window today, it's actually dumping here. I'm based out of Summit County, Colorado, which I always laugh. We always have to qualify our little town by Summit County. I don't know why, but it's I'm in the mountains and I couldn't be more excited to talk a little bit about my little crazy path in the ski industry.
Well, listen, it's a great path, and I would be lying if I didn't say there's a little bit of FOMO going on, because I've been a skier my whole life. We talked a little bit about that, and the opportunity to live and work in God's country in the mountains at really extraordinary locations is a blessing. So let's start with, you go to college, you intern, you do all the things we all did growing up, which is you wait tables, you tend bar, you sell lift tickets, or you were a lift operator or something like that. And then you progressively decide, okay, this is really what I want to do. So along the way, as you sort of migrated into Powder, is there an individual, or maybe more than one, that you credit as sort of being a mentor or the best boss or leader you've ever had or worked for?
Yeah, I mean, look, my career spans so far back, truly at a college. And I can't, racking my brain if I worked in the beer garden at Squaw Valley, now known as Palisades, first, or if I taught kids skiing first. It's kind of a blur. And I probably did both at the same time, if I'm going to be honest, as a college student. It's so interesting. My path has been so circuitous. It started really from there, went into marketing. That's what I had studied in school, and marketing and communications. And along the path, it turned into operations. And it was sort of a lot of hand raising, starting out as an individual contributor. And then it really led into a bunch of leadership roles, which, you know, all of it was a bit out of my wheelhouse and comfort zone. But I would say when I think about, you know, challenging to identify the best boss, it's been many leaders along the way. It's just been a bunch of little pieces of each boss and leader that I've had that's really shaped that part of my business acumen, the business skills, leadership skills. I mean, it's been sort of these bits and pieces along the way. And I would say, if I were to point to one thing about a boss, and I think about this as I lead people, it's about who has championed me across this career. And it's been impactful along the way. So when I reflect about it, it's been those people who've really looked at my potential and said, wow, I'm going to give her a chance to get out of her comfort zone. And I think it's those moments and those leadership qualities of my best bosses that have said, yeah, I'm going to put her way out of her comfort zone and see what she can do. And it was those moments that I've learned Yeah, I kind of call it the there there. Like someone could see the there for me, and I would just, I'm ambitious. I would go for it in each one of those circumstances. So I would just say one of the qualities that I have is I kind of like to be a catalyst for change. I'm all about it. Like, hey, give me a challenging project and let me see what I can do with it. And I learned that from a couple of leaders. Certainly, I've had the fortunate experience to work closely with presidents of divisions and CEOs
Yeah.
and those types of things. And I think having that direct, exposure has really been valuable to me over time.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense actually, because we are in truth all a bit of a mosaic, right? You take a step back, you put one bit on the board at a time, and when you're close up, it doesn't make any sense. You take 10 steps back and all of a sudden the picture comes into focus. So what one of the things that strikes me is as you talk about being in leadership rooms with CEOs, with heads of departments and all that sort of thing. At the end of the day, we're all just people and we're all just trying to do the very best job we can. And when there's an individual who recognizes talent, character, ambition, the willingness to be assertive and not be afraid of change, or from a swimmer's perspective, because I am that, going into the deep end of the pool, those moments in time, one, you feel really good because somebody trusts you and is sort of giving you a nudge. On the other hand, you got to perform, right? So when you put yourself in that crucible, the balance of what you don't know, right? Because you're in a new environment, combined with what you've learned to date. How do those two things for you, how have they blended? I mean, right? I mean, it's a ton of self-awareness, but you also have to, okay, I'm going to trust myself even though I have no idea what I.
Yeah, I mean, at Vail Resorts, we talk a lot about agility, learning agility and holding your opinions loosely so that you can continue to shape and think about problem solving from all points of view. And it is a little bit of that vulnerability that you have to be confident enough to put yourself a little bit in fearless situations. And I find myself, I love the fact that you use swimming in the deep end because I use that a lot actually as I lead people. Because that's where all the learning begins, is where you don't have solid footing. You got to kind of tread water and start to, because it forces you to learn in a different way. And I think for me, not having a bit of a blank slate in some of the opportunities that some of these great bosses have given me has allowed me to sort of chart a course without a huge roadmap there. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's all those pieces.
Well, listen, the in the grand scheme of things, sales and marketing combined with ops is kind of a perfect marriage, right? I mean, you're not running necessarily or building spreadsheets for finance, but you have to be able to read them, understand them, be able to decipher a P&L, and there's a basically two sides of that coin. Informing an operations exec with a history in sales and marketing seems to me to be sort of a perfect blend. And I want to get your perspective on a couple of things. One, as you look at a P&L, do you equally look at cost side versus revenue side and see where opportunities exist or where risk is obvious? And then how does that analysis for you get influenced by the lens that you came out of from a marketing perspective? Because in the grand scheme of things, when things are going well, there's not a lot of scrutiny, although one could argue that would be the best time to lay scrutiny across a P&L when it's going really well, right? When it's not going so well, a lot of times, even though they know better, marketing is the first thing that gets cut. So I'm really keen to hear your blend of that.
It's a really loaded question. It's interesting because I think having a marketing background really, really helped shape how I think about the business because it gives you that guest experience, that guest perspective. You're as a marketer, you're thinking about the brand and how to position the brand and guest behavior and those types of connections. And in what I do for a living, there's so much passion around skiing and our brands, right? People are very, very passionate about our resorts and the brands. And I think there's several aspects to how I think about the P&L as it relates to marketing. And really, it starts with business priorities. We have to think about the priorities around how we want to deploy capital, and we want to think about how we want to deploy human capital, our people, investing in our people. And I would also say it's just really important to think about, of course, the cost side and also the growth side. It's not an either or, it's all of the above. And you have to think about the whole business model in totality. I think that comes in robust times and when things are buoyant, and it also comes when things are challenging. I'm in a business where there's weather variability and we work with very big equipment, moving chairlifts and big grooming machines and buildings. We run restaurants all over tops of mountains and the logistics around the things that we do. So there's so many pieces to a P&L. So I would say it's not just one thing. Building your business priorities is the most important, is making sure you're clear where you're investing and how you're investing is the most important thing.
That's, I think, spot on. And there's the infrastructure around a fully operational ski resort. You ticked off a whole bunch of different things, and because we're both skiers, we've seen it. Well, I haven't seen it from your side, but I've certainly seen it from the guest side. And the that balance of capital expenditure. When are we going to buy new grooming machines? Do we need to buy machines? Those kinds of balance sheet items, capital deployment, capital expenditures, those kind of things are the big picture business model strategic initiatives, whether it's human capital or equipment, right? Or do we need to double the snowmaking capability we have because we've experienced some pretty lean years and we know we're not going to get people up here to ski on dirt, right? So those things all really matter. But on a day-to-day basis, walk us through a day in the life of Jody Churich. I'm going to guess all winter long you're between and among all 6 locations. But when you drive over to Vail from Keystone for an afternoon meeting and spend the weekend there, weekends are the busiest time at ski resorts. So it's not like you get weekends off, right?
You're spot on in my role. So just for reference, my role, I oversee 6 of our largest destination resorts for Vail Resorts. And yes, I absolutely travel up to Whistler and Park City and over to Vail and Beaver Creek, since I live a couple of miles from Keystone. So Keystone and Breck are just a stone's throw for me. So I do. My favorite part of the job is being in resort with the teams and spending time with our leadership teams and frontline teams. And I tend to do that more on the weekends because during the week, there's a lot of other logistical, business work that we do. So I spend a little bit of time down in Broomfield. I am on the executive committee for the company. And so, and it's great. We meet down there once a week, and sometimes more than one day a week. It can be more than that. Look, I think it's such a complex business. There's the regional part of my job, which is supporting my leaders that are running those resorts. And the good part for me is I've been in those seats. I've been the CEO of Keystone and Breckenridge and started with Vail at Park City. So I know, all the underbelly of each of those resorts quite well. And so that's the day in the life. It's all of the things. It's business planning and capital planning and leading people and being in the resorts. Because I do believe it's so important for me to get to know our teams on the ground. And there's so many aspects. There's the ski and ride schools. There's the food and beverage operations. There's the lift experience teams and base experience teams. So there's just so many components to on the ground that you got to keep your eyes on and work with your leaders on all the different, things that they're working through, challenged by.
Right. So what everybody I think probably knows but doesn't think a lot about is when April 15th comes, or whenever in Colorado you're required to shut down the mountain. In a couple of resorts, neither of which are yours, whether it's Snowbird or Mammoth, those don't have any restrictions on when they have to close. And I know you do deal with some required closing dates, right? So what happens, you have a heavy winter, you have to close in the middle of April. There's plenty of snow left on the ground, probably ski another 6 or 8 weeks, but you can't. And as you plan for your summer and fall seasons, which I know may not be as busy in terms of guest count at the resorts, nonetheless, they are very significant periods in the year where your whole focus shifts from what we talked at the outset, snow farming, to a summertime golf, mountain bike, hiking, fishing, all the things.
We have some pretty significant summer operations, Park City, I would say, Breckenridge, Vail, we have coasters and sightseeing. Whistler has the world's largest bike park and sightseeing program, and it's amazing up there in the summer. So believe it or not, Breckenridge, when I was COO there, like our turn time from winter to summer was like a month because Breck goes late into the season. And so, yeah, it never ends. Like we are end to end. It really is in these destination resorts year round. The crew's either getting ready for winter or getting ready for summer, and it's a ramp up, ramp down is what we call it. So, it's robust and it's fun. And I think everybody's usually ready for a little summer and mountain biking and all those types of things.
For sure. So we talked a little bit about the the infrastructure requirements, right? We everybody who goes to places like you manage sees the infrastructure requirement. What they don't necessarily see in today's world of business, what very few people see, is the technology side of the business. And over the last couple of years, of late, as we are, winding down Milano Cortina as we record this, the technology that comes to bear on an operation like yours, walk us through that. I mean, first question is, obviously, when you have very sophisticated equipment, it runs virtually on computers all the time, right? So that's a tech piece, but there's also an analog piece to that. So first question is AI playing a role, and if so, how significant a role in the broader Vail Resort operations construct?
Well, I mean, such a good question, Carl. The AI revolution is here.
The genie's not going back in the bottle.
And frankly, I'm excited to see how it's going to shape the way we use technology to improve performance and navigate change. Like, I'm super excited, and it's going to take a thoughtful approach, right? Like, you got to test and learn and always ask yourself, what won't we use AI for versus what will we? It's coming, I think. From my perspective, I'm excited for it, but I also think it's something we have to take a really thoughtful approach to. As it relates to the games, I'm such a fan of the Olympics. We had our Park City team was out at Cortina Olympic Games, and they are there to see the back of the house. Now, Park City has hosted the Olympics before, but the team certainly has changed over time. And so we're excited about hosting in Park City. Being on the world stage is going to be pretty exciting for us again. We have great partners in the 2034 planning group, and planning's underway.
Oh,
it's great.
I know that it is. So as Cortina winds down here, I'm going to just say this. We're recording on Friday, the last Friday of the Winter Olympic Games. This coming Sunday in 2 days is closing ceremonies. And then the world's focus around Olympics shifts to LA, but not yours. Yours shifts to 2034, and the prominent role that Park City will play as the broader Salt Lake community gets prepared to host the games. Walk us through a little bit about the thinking right now, the planning cycles, how involved you personally are and professionally are, it for sure around Park City, but in the broader sort of Salt Lake, if you will, bid slash operating slash management committees?
Yeah, so my involvement's at a pretty high level. The on the ground team is certainly there working and meeting very regularly with SLOC, Salt Lake Olympic Committee, and doing those types of things. I wouldn't say the biggest challenges are super clear this far out, but certainly venue selection and preparing infrastructure is all in motion. And it's fun to work on these types of programs even this far out, and to be thinking about our infrastructure and venues and those types of things. So I would say I'm not in it day to day, but I certainly am in the updates and discussions around those very things, venues and all of those types of things.
Right. So as you look out on the horizon, I mean, it's always a public-private partnership, and, Vail Resorts is going to be no small part of 2034 from a Park City perspective, not just the mountain itself, but the town and everything that goes with. Are there some big pieces that you're looking at that this point are going to need to be addressed, be they infrastructure or new lifts or merging mountains? Or, I mean, there's a lot going on. It's all not visible at the moment, but we all know that the planning around some of these kinds of things is enormous. Do you have your eye on anything in particular as you look toward 34?
I mean, and I'm holding anything back. It's still really like we're pretty far out at this point, and there are certainly, like I say, SLOC meetings happening, and there are local community things in Park City that the teams are meeting on a regular cadence to talk about all of those types of things. And I would say, and I think the back of the house tours that the teams have just done in Milan Cortina is part of that. It's all in those beginning stages of just talking through all the infrastructure and all of those types of things.
Well, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and we were sort of looking at the Olympic Games. And if you go back not that long, 3 consecutive games in Asia, Korea, Tokyo, which turned into 2021, then Beijing, and then 2 consecutive games in Europe. And this is a shout out to the Europeans from me, because they really are the homeland for the Olympic Games and have been for a really long time. And when the IOC awards non-European and non-North American, just because you and I are sitting here in North America, there is some risk to that. Not necessarily from an athlete perspective or an infrastructure perspective, but from what I will call ambiance, media savvy, the broader marketing template of what the Olympic Games is. And for me, you go from Paris to Milan to LA, back to the French Alps, and then you have this little soiree down to Brisbane, Australia, and then you come back to Salt Lake. It's a very cool outlook over the next 8 years, at least from this guy's perspective.
Couldn't agree more. I think Milan Cortina put on such an amazing Winter Olympics. And I think that they showcased exactly what we all hope to fuel, at least the sport that I'm so passionate about, which is skiing, like watching our athletes out there and the conditions. The mountains were beautiful. I'm so excited. I am so excited for all the venues that we get to see in the ramp up to 2034. I think it's on a cool path, and I can't wait to continue, in France and see how it evolves over time, like everything else.
Well, right. And I mean, there are a couple of bits in Cortina that I thought were unbelievably awesome. One, these mini drones with cameras on them, and the drones up. I mean, the visuals from a television perspective were extraordinary. Right?
So great. Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, the level of these athletes nowadays, and I get to see it frequently at our resorts. They're training all the time in and out of our resorts, and just the level of competitive sport is just so high, and it's just so fun to watch.
It's intense. And, Park City's home to the U.S. ski and snowboard team, and you have the Center of Excellence around the corner. I mean, the tech that the U.S. ski and snowboard team has brought to training and rehab and recovery and nutrition. And I mean, it's amazing to me. And I've had the pleasure to be there a few times back in the day, but it's a real thing. And athletes worldwide, summer or winter, are hyper focused on all those things. And it literally it consumes your life to compete at that level. So it's really been fun to watch, and I applaud what you have been able to do in your career to live the ski resort life, not just because you love it, but because you're fully invested in it and your career path is rewarding you for that passion. Good for you, Jody.
Yeah, I feel pretty lucky. That's for sure.
You should feel pretty lucky. Listen, we've got a few minutes left, and I ask everybody the same four questions. So you're on the hot seat right now. So this is about work-life balance, and we just talked about summer versus winter and moving around among and between headquarters in Broomfield and the 6 resorts under your charge. So how do you deal with the work-life balance? More importantly, how or if does faith play a part in your work-life balance, your family life?
Yeah, it's so funny. I get this work-life balance question a lot, like all the time. And it's so unique, I think, to everyone. I happen to have a pretty high capacity for both work and play. And fortunately, my work is I get to do, ski, which is something that I love to do. I'm all about sports and outdoors, so it fits my ethos quite well. So the two blend together. That's how I live. And it's how my family lives. And so I'm so fortunate, for me, we have two grown boys. And as they were growing up, they were part of the ski resort. They were the CO's kids running around and skiing on the mountain. And so that's been part of our life since the beginning. And so the industry's, just been part of who they are growing up. And so for me, it's a shared experience, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And yeah, I'm driven, ambitious. And so the work-life balance, to me, it fuels me. It's not a drainer for me. I love what I do. So I think for those of us that are lucky that love what they do, then it is balanced just on that.
Right. Good answer. So this is not that any of us want to admit this, but we've all made mistakes. So this question is your favorite mistake. That's the one you made where, did I really just do that? What it was and how you recovered from it and what you learned from it, what you took away.
I am so glad you asked me this question. Now, I would say where I learned the most from was a make or break moment with my EQ. Um, I've seen mine fail me, and I remember the one time it failed me so clearly. I refer to it all the time, but yeah, I let my defense mechanism take over. A little bit of an ego when somebody poked at me with some feedback. And it was the most humbling experience because I spiraled. I took some criticism in a poor way, and I'll never forget it. And since then, I've learned the importance of really just stepping back, managing my own reactions, and allowing myself to really absorb the perspective before responding. And it was one of those moments. It was just high emotional, and just my EQ went out the window, and took me some time to get over it and learn from it and use it to fuel my career moving forward, because it was pretty detrimental to my career. And it was a step back, and you always kind of want to blame the person that gave you the feedback that you didn't take well, or the criticism. Could it have been delivered better? Sure, of course. But you're responsible for how you react to it. And I've just over time just grown up so much from that one experience that's my favorite mistake, because it afforded me that moment to go, oh man, that was a big mistake.
So much better to have a thoughtful response than an emotional reaction.
And it's hard, right? Like when you're in the thick of it. And yeah, so it's the learning moment that's my favorite mistake.
That's a good one. So this is a fun one. Your favorite concert, live show that you ever attended where a female-led artist or band was the headliner?
I was waiting for this question, and if it's okay with you, Carl, if I can answer, it's not a female band, but um, I went and experienced Dead and Co. At the Sphere. And while it's not a female band, it was one of the coolest, most immersive experiences. My husband and I are both from the Bay Area, so there's so
Jerry
much.
Garcia in your DNA?
Right. And my husband's a known deadhead, and we went with our two boys, grown boys, and it was just such a blast. And the music was amazing, the technology was amazing, the experience. And what I took away from that Dead and Co concert is just what I bring back to my job every day is like, if we can make these just emotional connections with people in the outdoors and skiing, it just lights me up to even think about I can provide that for someone, and lots of people. And that's what that concert did for me. It was just, you were with the people that were sitting around you, and it was just such a great experience.
Yeah, well, the Sphere is an amazing experience no matter what you see there. But
Right.
that's a very cool one. Okay, the last one. This is my favorite one. Words matter, especially in a leadership position. What you say, what you don't say, how you say it. So this is your favorite word and why.
Yeah. My favorite word for sure is genuine. As a leader, I think authenticity is everything. It builds trust. And for me, it's about showing up as just myself, bringing my experiences, my wisdom, whatever it is, to others, and just really creating real connections with people. So genuine's my word.
I love that word. And you've been genuinely entertaining and informative on this podcast. I can't thank you enough. Great to reconnect with you, Jody, and I look forward to staying a lot closer to you over the next bit of time because there's lots of things to share together. I can't thank you enough for being a guest today on the Best Boss Ever podcast.
Thanks, Carl. So good to see you. Thanks for having me on.